Every single day, Nigeria pumps millions of barrels of oil out of the ground. And yet, fuel is scarce, the naira is on the floor, and ordinary Nigerians are grinding, struggling, suffering just to get through the week. Now, most people will say corruption, mismanagement, bad leaders, and they are not wrong. But I need you to hear this. Before that oil even becomes petrol, before it reaches a refinery, before it gets anywhere near your fuel tank, a significant portion of it is already gone, already sold, already pledged, already on its way to pay back loans that most Nigerians have never even heard of. And the company collecting that oil on behalf of international banks, not in Lagos, not in Abuja, not even in Africa. The Bahamas, a shell company in the Bahamas, is receiving Nigerian oil right now. While everyone is at the pump complaining about fuel prices, nobody is asking the real question: who owns Nigeria's oil before it ever gets to us? That is what we're getting into today. Hold that question, because by the end of this video, the answer is going to change how you see everything. If you are new here, welcome. Unfiltered Report is where we break down Nigerian and African politics with no filter, no party loyalty, and no corporate agenda. Just the truth, as clearly as we can give it to you. Hit subscribe right now because this video is about to get deep. What happened and why now? Okay, let us start from the beginning. August 2023. NNPC quietly secured a $3.3 billion loan. The arranger was Afrexim Bank, and they gave the deal a code name. They called it Project Gazelle. Now, this was not announced in a press conference. There was no national address, no detailed breakdown for Nigerians to read and interrogate. The specifics only came out later through investigative journalists, leaked documents, opposition politicians asking uncomfortable questions. So, what actually is Project Gazelle? Stay with me, because I'm going to explain this in plain language, no finance jargon. NNPC needed dollars urgently. The naira was collapsing. The central bank had billions of dollars in outstanding obligations it simply could not meet. The foreign exchange market was on fire. So NNPC went to international lenders and essentially said, "We will give you future oil we have not even pumped yet, oil that belongs to Nigerians. Give us cash today and we'll pay you back with barrels tomorrow." That is a forward sale agreement. You are selling tomorrow's resources to solve today's crisis. And under this deal, Nigeria pledged 164 million barrels of crude oil at 90,000 barrels per day starting from 2024 to repay this loan. The entity receiving that oil on behalf of the lenders? Project Gazelle Funding Limited, a special purpose vehicle incorporated in the Bahamas. Now, I already know what some of you are thinking. Governments borrow all the time. Is this really so bad? Fair question, and I will come back to it, I promise. But first, I need you to understand the full picture, because Project Gazelle is not even the whole story, not even close. Since 2019, NNPC has entered into at least 11 of these forward sale deals. 11. Total value, $21.5 billion in 6 years. Most of them were not publicly announced when they were signed. Think about what that means. For 6 years, deal after deal after deal, Nigeria's future oil mortgaged quietly without the full knowledge of the Nigerian people. But here's the part that really gets me. The consequences are not coming. They are already here, right now, showing up in ways that are hitting every single Nigerian. How the system is responding. Now, let us talk about what Nigerian institutions are actually doing about this. Because there is a law, a specific law, designed to prevent exactly this kind of situation. It is called the Petroleum Industry Act, the PIA. And Section 109 is very clear. Before NNPC exports crude oil, it must first make sure domestic refineries are supplied. Domestic first, exports second. That is the law. written down in black and white. Now, let me tell you what is actually happening. The Dangote refinery, the largest single-train refinery in the entire world, sitting right here in Nigeria, capable of meeting every single drop of this country's fuel needs with surplus left over to export to the rest of Africa. That refinery has been starved of crude oil. Under the Naira for Petroleum deal, NNPC was supposed to deliver 350,000 barrels of crude per day to Dangote. You know what it was actually delivering at its best? 120,000, not even a third of what was agreed. And by February 2025, it stopped completely. Between October 2025 and mid-March 2026, the Dangote refinery experienced a shortfall of approximately 79 million barrels of crude. 79 million barrels gone that should have been processed right here in Nigeria. So what is Dangote forced to do? Import crude from America, pay for it in US dollars, and every single dollar of that cost gets passed back to you at the pump, at the market, in the price of everything that moves on a truck in this country. Let me say that again slowly, because I want this to land. Nigeria, one of Africa's biggest oil producers, has a world-class refinery that cannot get enough Nigerian crude to run properly, because the crude is already pledged somewhere else. Now, to be fair, the National Assembly has not been completely silent. The House of Representatives directed NNPC to halt any further mortgaging of future crude pending a forensic audit. A special joint committee was set up. Lawmakers warned clearly that more deals would starve refineries, weaken revenue, and damage Nigeria's fiscal future. Good. That needed to happen. The Auditor General also published a report, 808 pages, documenting systemic violations at NNPC, weak controls, unexplained payments, over $51 million in questionable transactions just between 2020 and 2021. NNPC management responded to every finding in that report. Every single response was judged unsatisfactory by the auditors. Every one. And here is what I genuinely believe is happening. The forensic audit, the Auditor General's report, the House of Reps directive, all at the same time. That is not coincidence. That is a system scrambling to find accountability after the fact for deals that were made in secret. The real question is not whether investigations were launched. In Nigeria, investigations always get launched. The real question is whether anyone at all, actually faces consequences for what those investigations find. Watch that space closely. Who is playing what game? Okay, now we get into the part of the story that I really need you to pay attention to, because this is where we follow the oil and see exactly who is benefiting. Project Gazelle Funding Limited, the Bahamas SPV at the center of this, is what financiers call an orphan entity. And that word orphan is very deliberate. It means the SPV is legally designed to be separate from both NNPC and the banks. If this deal blows up, neither side is directly on the hook, the way they would be in a normal lender-borrower relationship. Convenient, right? So who are the actual lenders sitting behind this structure? Afreximbank arranged it, but the sub-lenders include Vitol, one of the biggest commodity trading houses on the planet, Gonvo, another massive international energy trader, Sahara Energy, Oando, Standard Chartered Bank, and United Bank for Africa, which put in $100 million. International oil trading houses, multinational banks, all of them locking in future Nigerian crude at pre-agreed prices, pre-agreed terms before the oil is even out of the ground. Now ask yourself, who benefits when oil is sold in advance like this? The buyers do, because they're getting guaranteed supply at prices set today.
If oil prices spike tomorrow, and they did spike significantly during the Middle East conflict in early 2026, Nigeria cannot take advantage of that. The barrels are already committed. The upside goes to the lenders. Nigeria is locked in. And who absorbs all the downside? You already know the answer.
Let me give you the full list of deals because I want you to see the scale of this. Project Gazelle, $3.4 billion, maturing 2032. Project Eagle, $1 billion, already matured June 2025. Project Bison, $1.04 billion, maturing December 2026. Project Brogue, $300 million, maturing January 2027. Project Leopard, $2 billion, maturing January 2029. And the newest one, Project Gazelle 2, $7.5 billion, maturing April 2034. That is 11 deals, $21.5 billion, stretching from right now all the way to 2034. But wait, here is something almost nobody is reporting. And when I found this, I had to sit with it for a moment. By December 2023, NNPC had already drawn $2.25 billion from Project Gazelle alone. And in 2024, crude oil worth close to 1 trillion naira was lifted as repayment. But NNPC did not disclose the identities of who was receiving that oil or the exact volumes already delivered. Nigeria is paying back in oil right now, in real time, and we do not know exactly who is on the other side receiving it. One more thing, and this one really tells you something. Afreximbank, the institution that arranged the original Gazelle deal, reportedly declined to participate in the new $2 billion Project Leopard deal. Why? Because they said they had reached their own internal limit on lending to NNPC. Think about that. The bank closest to these deals, the one that has seen all the numbers, all the terms, all the obligations, looked at the new deal and said, "We are at our limit. We cannot take on more exposure here." That is not a small signal. That is a very loud warning from the inside. Now, let us zoom out because all of this connects directly to your daily life, and I need you to feel the weight of what that means. Before we go further, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment right now. Do you think what I just laid out is the real game being played? Because what I am about to show you next changes everything. Comment now, then keep watching. What this means for ordinary Nigerians. Let us bring this home. Everything we have talked about, the Bahamas SPV, the $21 billion in deals, the starved refineries, all of it connects directly to your pocket, your daily reality, the life you are actually living right now. When NNPC cannot supply Dangote with crude because that crude is already pledged to offshore lenders, Dangote has to go buy crude from America in dollars. That cost does not disappear into thin air. It gets passed on to fuel prices, to transport costs, to the price of food at the market, to everything. And the Naira for Petroleum deal, which was supposed to protect Nigerians from this exactly, has essentially collapsed. Remember what the subsidy removal was sold to us as? Painful, yes, but necessary because the savings would be reinvested. The economy would stabilize. Nigeria would finally be put on a sustainable path. That argument assumed the oil revenues freed up by removing subsidy would actually be available to reinvest. But if a decade of future oil revenue is already committed to repaying these loans, what exactly are we reinvesting? Now, I want to address something directly because I hear this argument a lot. People say, every country borrows. What's the big deal? Stop being dramatic. I hear you, and I respect that pushback. But here's where it breaks down. When a government takes a normal loan, a bond, a credit facility, the collateral is the government's creditworthiness, its future tax revenues, abstract financial obligations, and if things go bad, the government has options: negotiate, restructure, in extreme cases, devalue the currency to ease the local burden. You can't devalue your way out of an oil barrel debt. Nigeria did not pledge Naira,
It did not pledge tax revenue, it pledged physical barrels of crude oil. If oil production falls, and it has fallen, Nigeria still owes those barrels. There is no currency adjustment that helps. You owe oil, you deliver oil, or you default. That's a completely different kind of commitment to what most people think of when they hear the word loan, and we are living inside it right now. Here is something I want you to understand, because it puts Nigeria's situation in a much bigger context. Nigeria is not the only country that has walked down this road. Angola did it, Chad did it, Republic of Congo did it, and in several of those countries, the lenders, mainly Chinese state banks and Western commodity trading houses, ended up with real leverage over national decisions, not by breaking any law, but simply because when you owe someone oil and your production is constrained, they hold power over what you can and cannot do. The IMF and World Bank have flagged resource-backed loans repeatedly, not because borrowing is inherently wrong, but because these arrangements remove future fiscal flexibility, the ability to change direction, to respond to a crisis, to invest in something new. When you pre-sell a decade of oil, you've essentially pre-decided a decade of fiscal policy. And for Nigerians in the diaspora, in London, Houston, Toronto, Dublin, I need you to hear this specifically. Every naira you send home should in theory be gaining strength as Nigeria's oil revenues grow. But if those revenues are structurally pre-committed to offshore debt repayment, the naira is fighting a headwind that's baked into these agreements. Your remittances are working against a structural problem that no CBN intervention alone can fix. And the transparency issue, nobody in the international community is pushing hard enough on this. The lenders, Vitol, Gunvor, Standard Chartered, operate under strict disclosure requirements in their home countries, yet the SPVs they are dealing with in Nigeria are incorporated in the Bahamas, one of the most opaque offshore jurisdictions on earth. None of these deals went through the kind of independent legislative scrutiny that equivalent arrangements would require in the UK or the US. Nigerians deserve the same level of transparency over deals made with their own resources.
The other side of the argument. Now, and I mean this, I need to be fair here, because Unfiltered Reports is not a propaganda channel. We are not here to give you one version of events and dress it up as the full truth. So let me give you the strongest version of the other argument. Genuinely, NNPC's position is this. Nigeria has over 35 billion barrels of proven oil reserves sitting in the ground, not generating any revenue. In the meantime, the naira is weak, foreign exchange is short, and the government needs dollars today, not in 10 years when those reserves might finally be extracted. Forward sale financing, they argue, unlocks the value of those reserves now. It brings in foreign investment. It gives international lenders a stake in seeing Nigeria's production grow. And as production increases, the debt burden shrinks relative to total revenues. That argument has real economic logic. I am not going to pretend otherwise. But, and this is a big but, that logic only holds if three things are true. 1. The money borrowed is transparently deployed into investments that actually grow Nigeria's productive capacity. 2. The terms of the deals are publicly known and legislatively approved before they are signed. 3. Domestic obligations, Nigerian refineries, the Federation account, are protected and not sacrificed to service the debt. Look at the evidence we have. The money from Project Gazelle went primarily to stabilize the foreign exchange market, not to build new production infrastructure. The terms were secret when the deals were signed, and domestic refineries have been demonstrably, provably starved. Not one of those three conditions has been fully met. And one more correction I want to make. Clearly, a lot of Nigerians have framed this entire story as a Tinubu problem. I understand why, but it is not accurate. These deals started in 2019 under the Buhari administration. They have continued and expanded under Tinubu. This is a systemic NNPC problem, an accountability gap that has survived multiple governments, multiple group managing directors, multiple ministers of petroleum. That means a change of president alone will not fix it. It requires structural reform, legislative oversight,
institutional accountability. And that is what Nigerians should be demanding right now, regardless of who they voted for. Here's my honest take. Demand 3 things. Full public disclosure of every oil-backed deal currently in existence. A mandatory National Assembly vote before any new deal is signed, not after, not alongside, before. And a hard, enforceable domestic supply obligation that NNPC cannot waive by itself. That is not partisan. That is just common sense governance, and it applies no matter who is in Aso Rock. So, where do we go from here? Let me walk you through 3 realistic scenarios, 3 ways this story develops in the months and years ahead. And I want you to watch for the specific signs that will tell you which direction things are actually going. Scenario 1. The forensic audit delivers real consequences. The House of Reps committee concludes its work. The findings are made fully public, and the EFCC or the courts get involved. Not just recommendations, actual legal consequences for individuals who signed away Nigeria's future oil without proper authorization. What to watch for? Does the audit report get published in full? Does any current or former NNPC executive face personal legal exposure, not just a query letter, actual charges? If that happens, it changes everything. If it does not happen, if the report quietly disappears the way so many reports in Nigeria do, then you have your answer about whether this process was ever real. Scenario 2. The deals continue and get bigger. Project Gazelle 2, $7.5 billion running until 2034, is reportedly already in motion. If that deal closes without full public scrutiny, without National Assembly ratification, while the forensic audit is still ongoing, that tells you everything. The audit was theater, the deals will continue, and Nigeria will be mortgaging oil it has not yet pumped for another decade. Watch for any NNPC financing announcement in the next 6 months. That's the signal. Scenario 3. Dangote becomes the game changer. This is the scenario that actually gives me genuine hope. As of early 2026, Dangote Refinery has reached full refinery capacity. It is exporting refined products across Africa, Ghana, Cameroon, Togo, Tanzania. It can meet 100% of Nigeria's fuel needs with surplus. If, and I know this is a big if the PIA is actually enforced, if NNPC is legally compelled to deliver the 350,000 barrels per day that Dangote is contractually entitled to, Nigeria's import bill drops dramatically. The foreign exchange pressure eases, and the desperate scramble for emergency crude-backed loans weakens, and the cycle that produced Project Gazelle starts to break. Watch one number. How many barrels per day is NNPC actually delivering to Dangote? That single figure will tell you more about Nigeria's fiscal future than almost anything else. Now, let me close the loop on the question I asked you at the very beginning. I asked you this: if Nigeria's oil is being sold years in advance to pay off loans, what exactly is left for Nigerians? Here's my honest answer. What is left is the oil that has not yet been pledged, the barrels not yet committed. And more than that, what is left is the legal framework that, if Nigerians actually demand it gets enforced, can protect what remains. The Petroleum Industry Act exists. The National Assembly's oversight mandate exists. The Auditor General's office exists. The tools are there. What has been missing is the political will to use them. And political will in a democracy comes from one place. It comes from the people. Nigeria's oil was never supposed to end up inside an off-and-shell company in the Bahamas. It was supposed to build hospitals, roads, refineries, schools, jobs, a future that ordinary Nigerians could actually feel. The fact that it keeps ending up somewhere else, under every administration, across every oil cycle, in every era, is not bad luck. It's a governance failure. And governance failures can be fixed, but only if enough people understand what is actually happening and refuse, absolutely refuse, to allow it to continue in the dark. That's your job now. Not to be angry, not to pick a political team, but to be informed and to demand better. That's what this channel is for, and that's why you are here. If this video helped you see what is really happening, Share it with one person who needs to hear it. That's how we build an informed Nigeria, one person at a time. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay unfiltered.